Recording in progress.
All right, all you on-timers, away we go. Welcome to tonight's call. This is the Profitable Real Estate Agent Call, and we find ourselves in week 10. And just to reiterate the whole process here and how we go about this, we have a strategic plan that we follow. Let me do the right thing and show you that. Sorry, I'm always juggling a lot of windows here, so let me get the right one I want up. I want to show you my screen and show you the model so that you can see this. In the case, I always forget, in the case this might be the first time that you've actually seen something from me, that you get the chance to actually see how we look at things here at Griffin / The Realty Classroom. Both of my companies are fundamentally founded on a process that is strategic. And I think that's really important for me to mention to you, and you need to see that and understand it, because it is very difficult to follow instruction if you don't know the reason why that somebody's saying that to you, right? So there it is. There's the model up there. So let me speak to this for a second. Again, I always say, if you want to do your own homework in addition to what you learned from me so that you see the reason why I teach this way, then I would highly recommend one of the most important things you could do is get a copy of Michael Gerber's book titled The E-Myth, which stands for the entrepreneurial myth. And the basic premise in that book is, just because you know how to do the technical work of a business doesn't mean you know how that technical business works. Now let's fill in. Just because you might know how to sell a home or get lucky and sell one doesn't mean that you know how the real estate agent business works. And so that was a good premise for me to begin with for my own business, and then a platform upon which I could teach my results. So what I realized from Michael Gerber's book is that there are 3 layers to who we all have to become a profitable real estate agent business, okay? We have to have a business vision as an entrepreneur for a business that is profitable. And that's why I titled this free course that. You need to understand that this is a business. It is not a job. And so you need a vision for one that works. And in Michael Gerber's world, that premise of how does the business work is very simple. There's a multiple listing service where listings, AKA all the details of somebody's sale, that they're selling their house, that gets put into a marketplace where that gets shared with both agents, buyers and sellers agents, and the public now. So it's a share of that listing. So if you want a vision for a business that works for you, you want to understand how to acquire listings. So in order to also become a successful business person, you have to have this correct vision for yourself too. So it's one thing to be able to say, okay, I get that, but, and then we have all these excuses and these fears that crop up. So over and over and over, we talk about the mindset of envisioning yourself and acting as if, regardless of your age and experience level, that you are somebody who is frequently getting listings. And if you want to be profitable, at or above the median price in the geography within which you really want to do business. Very easy premise. So a business vision for a listings dominated, at least intentionally, you might end up having similar amounts of sell sides and buy sides, but a dominated intentional strategy to try to get more listings. So you have to see yourself as that person who's committed to a vision, number one. But most importantly, and really fundamental to this class, is somebody who never takes a tactical step without a plan. So that there are strategic plans that we need to get into. So we've got a couple of visions at the entrepreneurial level, but then we have this planning that happens at the strategic level. And take it from somebody who has been a top producer for a very long time and has coached top producers for a very long time. You'd be shocked at how tactical top producers are and don't follow a strategy. And you'll hear that because a lot of them are chasing the numbers of transactions. They don't really talk about the profitability of their business or lack thereof. So I'm warning you, don't be fooled by top producers or have this delusion that a lot of transactions is a good strategic vision for your business, because it's not usually predicated in a plan. It's predicated in just acting, right? a lot of action, which leads to a default mindset of where are the leads, right? Made famous in the movie Glengarry Glen Ross, old movie at this point in time. But if you're young and you haven't seen it, go watch it. You'll see what I'm talking about. There's this obsession in our business about leads. And that's not right, because leads come and they're definitely discussed as part of this course. And I'll show you the agenda first and I'll show you the order within which they're discussed. But I really want you to understand that this free course I'm doing slows everything down. And we start off with this. In the first week, I talk about this and I go in depth. Then I talk about a lot of the mindset to develop the vision of you as a business person. And there's some incredibly powerful books that I have read over time that are simple. Books on mind, subconscious mind control. Psycho-Cybernetics being my favorite. Mind Steering Systems by Maxwell Maltz. That's what Psycho-Cybernetics, by the way, means. Mind Steering Systems, Maltz, M-A-L-T-Z. Changed my life in the way I see a lot of things. And then Robert Cialdini's book on psychology. I was just listening to the famed, now deceased Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's famous investment partner. He was also a big fan of Robert Cialdini's book, Influence. So you see that there are a lot of basic, immutable, also known as unbreakable, that's what it means, unbreakable laws of business. And so in Gerber's world, he's saying, look, take these ideas and put them into a strategic approach. So in this course, after we get through these visions, we talk about marketing. And we went through a lot of the discussion in the section about marketing. It's probably the heaviest one, not probably what you think, and some big discussion about leads, rather the real fundamentals of marketing unique selling propositions, then the development of an ideal or an avatar client, or really contact, who goes from lead to prospect to client. So there's a lot more to unpack in a strategic marketing decision than just, where are the leads? I'll go anywhere. I just need a deal. That is the biggest mistake every top producer I've ever met in my entire career over 25 years makes, including me. And I stopped it a long time ago. And it's the best thing I did to make my business personally more profitable and now proliferate those methodologies by bringing people into the Griffin Brokerage, the Realty Classroom, and giving it away for free if you're just a guest dropping in on the internet. So the next part of that planning is how to properly do things like scripting. Once you have that avatar, what words do you use? What language of influence do you use to convince the right avatar to accept your unique selling proposition? So you see, each week it begins to tie itself together in a very commonsensical, logical way. So we talk a lot about that in the conversion process. And as we move along in the strategic conversion process, which simply means an intentional focus on a lead to a prospect to a client. We walk through all of those. Scripting is heavy when we're dealing with leads, making that offer, those offers being accepted, and then us creating that prospect who has a why, who has a motivation to do so, and is accepting our information from us. That's the definition of a prospect. Otherwise, it's not a real prospect. It's some whimsical hope that you have that somehow miraculously they turn into the next thing, which is your client. And that's where we land tonight in the conversion plan. So this course is very heavy on strategic marketing and strategic conversion, because once we get through the visionary stuff and you understand why it's important to have that kind of a vision, because that's the way the business works and that's who you have to become, it gets very tactical inside the strategic stuff that we have to do. In other words, over to my right-hand side, I've got two packages, one a buy side, one a sell side. We call those the burgers and fries. Sellers is our burger, fries are the buyer, information packages. We teach you all about how that sets up your unique selling proposition. So we go heavy into that so that when you are doing conversion, okay, I get it. I remember what he said, that I can't just wing it when I'm talking to somebody on the phone, when I'm door knocking somebody, when I'm meeting them at an open house, when I'm giving a listing presentation. There is particular language that properly articulates the offer. Then we get the why and the motivation. It's very tactically formulated based on a strategy for conversion, not winging it. Okay. So where we find ourselves tonight is in the final stages of the conversion plan, where now we have these clients and we have to care for them. Okay. I'm going to just show you also. Let me just show you this. I want to change my screen to just show you what I just said so you can see it. Let me see this. Bear with me. Tell me when you can see the curriculum or just the 12 weeks there. Yeah, good. Thanks. Let me just put it up on the internet too. Thank you for that. And one more place. Sorry, I have to do this in two places. Okay, so here are the 12 weeks. And I wanted to bring it up because I want to explain what I did tonight. I've been going through this, and every 12 weeks that I do this, then I take 2 weeks off and think through how could I have made it simpler? How could I have made it more cohesive, better to understand? So when you look at this, if I were to highlight what I just said, we talked about the model, and we begin to talk about the mindset all the way through the first three. So visionary stuff and setting it up as a business vision, and then who you have to become. That's the first 3 weeks of this course. So up at that entrepreneurial level I showed you. Then when we get into marketing, I explain content, right? I do cover versus social media as a platform, but it's content marketing so that you can develop out your unique selling proposition and match it up with the ideal person. And then and only then start to find the right kind of leads and read them scripts. So I've 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks of strategic marketing discussion. Extremely important section of this course. Now, we then get into the other parts of conversion where we talk about scripts, where we bring people from a lead to a prospect, and then how to protect those prospects because prospect follow-up turns out to be the moneymaker. Prospect follow-up is the moneymaker. That's where you will make or break your business. Really important week. But then we make it all the way to a client and we have to care for them. And we can't just let that relationship atrophy. And we actually have to be a little bit aggressive in the follow-up with clients. It's not like you killed yourself to just win the business and they've signed a listing contract with you and or are working with you in the buyer field. You have to really care for them. So what I did was I used to have these 2 weeks separated. I combined client care into both seller and buyer care tonight, okay? So I'm going to actually go through 2 fill-in-the-blank presentations, one for buyers and one for sellers, and then we're going to go there, okay? So let me show that screen next. Okay, you should be seeing caring for your sellers. That should be up on there. If not, somebody scream bloody murder and we'll go from there, okay? So let's go to the sell side first. And again, I'm very particular about the sell side because this is that business vision. Don't ever let anybody tell you differently. It would be a hazardous mistake for somebody to say, oh, you can just go do listings. And then what? One day, miraculously, you wake up and learn how to become a listing agent? Or just go do any kind of business and you'll probably get a lot of buyers because you won't really have the experience. Don't think like that. That's not right. We have people in this group that are young, and Danielle could tell us at the end of this. I know she was close to getting her first listing presentation already, and she's inside of the system less than a month. So don't make these excuses. It does take some coaching, but it does take some falling forward to trust yourself. So let's get into caring for sellers here. So how do you introduce yourself professionally to sellers? Because that's how this really starts. You have to go all the way back to the conversion. So the best beginning to a relationship with a seller before they're a client is to give away your best what to do information for free. And again, always when I'm in the office doing these calls, when I can be here are the burgers and fries, which I refer to as the information package that is your unique selling proposition way of doing business. In other words, you're giving away to the seller your best information for free. Now, the what to do piece of that in my case, if you can see this, hopefully you can, is my 7 steps to seller success, which are just 7 immutable, universal, unbreakable laws to selling a house. You have to price it right. If you don't like that, you can recondition, so you get a better price. You have to put the sizzle in the steak with the staging. And I'm going to talk about this tonight at the end of the lecture portion. We'll talk about a price reduction conversation tonight. So this is your best what to do information for free when you organize it and put it away. But people want what they want. So what they really want to see also, so they can start to do their own comparison, is what's sold around them. So we give them pictures and details of properties that sold around them, and they all want to know, but how's the market? So we give them that too. So the unique selling proposition that is put together is what's called an information product. And in our world, we have copywritten cover letters that explain how to consume all this information too. So we have productized this into a physical product, not digital, not digital, not digital. Unless absolutely necessary, there is never a circumstance under which we do not give somebody, when we first meet with them, in this case, a seller, we do not give them a physical product. I'll repeat that. There is no circumstance, unless they are absolutely adamant, do not give me anything that's physical because I'm trying to save the environment, or whatever their reason is. Don't ever think digital replaces a physical product. Never does it. And when you think that way and you don't give away your best what to do information for free in physical form, you miss the opportunity to be dramatically unique. Period. That changed my business life. I cannot emphasize that enough. Not just giving away this stuff, but giving it away physically so I could change the way they saw me so that they don't think I'm just dumping something into their email. Next, what are the benefits? And I'm going to double down on what I just said. What are the benefits of giving to sellers? Well, when you give away your best information for free, you empower the seller and open up a competitionless lane. That's what I was just alluding to. When I give that seller all of this information, I have empowered them with insightful information so that they start to garner some control over the process. Think about what I just held up here. 7 steps, all delineated as to what to do if you are them. 5 or 6 properties that sold around them. And I don't know why this says this, because it shouldn't say this, but it's supposed to say neighborhood sales, not comparative market analysis, because that is not what this is. There is no comparison without me or you in the house. And then the market update. Those things are absolutely critical that they get to these people, because when somebody gives this to them, an intelligent person, which presumably these people are who own a median or above property, are empowered by that information, because now they know something that they didn't know. In fact, I went to see a past client today who's nervous because his business has taken a pretty big change and he's thinking about downsizing his house. So he was all freaked out, said, stop. I am going to come to your house with an analysis, and I'll look at, I'll give you tips on what to do and what not to do to get the highest end of that. And that's what I did. And it was a very short meeting because it didn't need to be anymore. And I said, now, Carl, you're empowered. And he said, I feel better already. So it's a real thing, that information, and then, of course, if you get to them, your insight and your guidance on top of it empowers them. And if you can buy into giving all that away for free, you are unique. Next, how do you set yourself up for a clear listing in selling process? So we've given this away, we've empowered them, and not that we've gotten rid of the competition, we've just simply put ourselves in a lane competing a completely different way. So all I'm saying is the lane is competitionless. There is nobody doing it this way but you. Nobody. So you have a good chance to not sound like all the sheeple. You're it. You're unique. And that's the definition of unique selling proposition 101, right? So how do you set yourself up for the clear listing and selling process? Well, it's best to chunk up your steps and educate the seller that you'll be following the exact process and reviewing with them along the way. So again, let me give you the cheat sheet here, the infographic. These are the chunked up steps. And so when I give a listing presentation, it's simply the infographic. Yes, I give them the whole fully articulated booklet, but this is just the infographic where I've chunked it up and I'm telling them, these are the steps in order of importance. And when you hire me, you can expect me to be dealing with the process exactly like this. And when I have to do any sort of a review with you, we will come back to this 7 steps and we will say, this is precisely how far we went. And I'm excited to give you the conversation today about a price reduction and some other things that we're doing. It's going to be a 2-step tomorrow too. But that's exactly what happened. Now, how detailed, because remember what I'm doing, if it hasn't been transparently obvious, I'm taking you actually back to the very first time I meet a lead, turn them to a prospect before they're a client. So I'm thinking strategically that I'm setting myself up for better client care way back there at the beginning of the conversion module. And that's why this part of the course is set up that way. So understand we've backtracked and we've gone all the way back to the unique selling proposition conversation in the marketing section of this course. And this is what we've said. Hey, make these packages because you're going to need them at the lead level where you offer them, at the prospect level where you deliver them, and at the client level where that's the tipping point and that's what you're following. You're keeping yourself honest in these 7 steps as much as you're telling them that's how it's going to happen. So you don't wing a listing. There's no winging. You're following. So now let's just imagine they've said yes. And so now you have to onboard them. There's a huge judgment period because they've taken the blind leap of faith to trust you from prospect to client. They've said go. And now you have to establish a transparent checklisted process for onboarding a listing, and including the seller is critical because people support what they help create, said the slide. Not creates. So that's the point here, is that if you now engage that seller in this 7-step process, they will be more supportive of the client process that they've entered with you. If you just dictate to them or lead them by the nose and you stop communicating in a transparent checklisted way, and what I mean by transparent checklisted, I mean, these are all the things that happen next. You can even show them that list if you want. For us, Laura, my client care manager, we have a pretty big, long list of everything we do. But the most important part that we involve the seller in is please review the pictures, the description, and the details in the MLS sheet to make sure there's nothing missed. That's where we co-create. Because what we learned the hard way in client care was there would be times where we would just rush, put all those details up there, and there would be one minuscule thing wrong, and it would really tweak the seller. Well, you said, I have oil and I have gas heat. How come you didn't get that right? So it can be an innocent mistake, a mischeck the box. But if we put it back on the seller to say, okay, we got all these details, but nobody knows the house better than you do. Please review this. Give us your comments on the pictures. Now, if somebody said, I can't stand that picture, I would send the photographer back out and go, okay, what do you expect? What do you want? And then we would go out and we would deliver that to them. So we're going through this checklist only to make sure, are we good on this listing, right? Are we good? Because it's going live, and it might already be live, but you can tweak updates these days in real time and they'll syndicate quickly every, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. So now pictures, the write-up, and all the details have been checked off by the seller. So they are now part of your listing onboarding process. They're committed to that process and they've co-created it with you. And they've said, looks good, right? So we finally get there. After all that setup, we've just tweaked them. It's go time, right? Well, they've already signed the contract, but it's go time with the listing. Now, here's the key part. This is really the caring piece. It's crucial to maintain your authority over the process and not be afraid of telling the seller what must happen to get the property sold, especially, drum roll please, when it comes to lowering the asking price. Okay? So I'm going to stop there for a second. I'm going to tell you about the anecdote today because I'm going to demonstrate this to you live within the day, okay? The work day. So we have a listing. They're past clients of ours twice. We've sold 2 properties, luxury properties, 1.8 and 3.1. And this is current asking price 2.7. And we have been executing the 7-step plan. So we priced it based on the math we had. We tweaked the condition the best that we could. They're moving to Florida, and it turned out the conditioning and the staging, we never quite got there. So now I know this because I've been doing some open houses, and we look at the 30-day review, which we just did, and we saw a couple of other houses that were competitors go pending, and we sent it to them in advance of getting ready to meet with them again. And they said, people had to drive by ours to get to theirs. Why didn't they see us? I said, okay, let's meet. Good question. But I said, before we meet, Laura, the client care manager, is going to pick up the phone. We're going to call the broker down the street, see if we can get any feedback. How busy were they? Did they get multiple offers? Then we're going to look at the details of that property, and we're going to figure it out. Why? We're going to go to the other one, which is not right down the street, but it's in the same town, Truro. We're going to take a look, find out that. So we're at 2.7, we look at a 2.950, and we look at a 2.495. We get the feedback, and it's pretty direct because the broker's a good guy. He sold a property with us in the same town in Truro, been 35 years there. He says, there's no way you're getting over $2.5 million for that. And yes, we had 8 people, couple offers quickly, and they were gone inside the first 30 days. And so was the other. He gave us the same thing, that there was just really amazing views everywhere. So we had our answers. We knew. And so we brought that to the seller today. And as much as we know these people, they're very excitable. So we didn't lose our authority and said, listen, here's everything we've done so far. And I'm concerned because the broker open house didn't yield anything other than a couple of flunkies, not the real agents. When I say that, I don't mean derogatory things about the agents, but they weren't serious agents like the people I know that sell in this area. I said also multiple open houses, nobody except neighbors that tripped through the front door. Furthermore, let's go back to the plan. The house is a mess. The lawn isn't cut. The bushes aren't trimmed. And your son, who's still living in it, is not clean. And I hate to hurt him, but it's there. Plus, I'm now thinking we might want to take everything out of the house because the wife begins to co-create this process and says, our house looks like it's year round. These other houses look like they have wicker furniture, Cape Cod. I said, you're absolutely right. So we left off that I would look at what else is active so we can talk about the right price. And then I'm probably going to end up telling them, get rid of all your stuff, take it all out and empty it, right? Because I might not even like staging in this house because the stuff they would leave behind is still kind of funky for a Cape Cod house. There you go. So that's a real conversation that happened based on us executing the plan, getting a result that's not good, reiterating, going back to the 7 steps, the pricing, talking about the condition for that price, and the staging all over again today. So we're caring for them, but you have to remember we executed on the marketing. And we reiterate that too. We made the phone calls into the neighborhood. We sent the postcards into the neighborhood. We did the broker open house. We did the multiple open houses. We've done the marketing and it's crickets, not good. So they know that we're following this because we've educated them that way, right? They know that. And so they're open to hearing us as much as they almost killed each other over, their son, who's, is a mess. And then they calm down and we're like, okay, good. We had this tough meeting. Let's go there. And that's why I'm saying a lot of top producers or agents in general will get a listing and then they'll run and hide because most of them cheated to the high end of the pricing range. Some of them even quote unquote bought the listing by just saying whatever in hopes that it's a rising tide or these people will just get sick of the process and lower their own price and something will happen and they hide for 6 months, whatever they take the listing for. And then it expires. And that's why expired listings are a continued phenomenon. And this is how to avoid that. Now, how detailed and organized is your closing process as you're getting ready for that? So establishing a transparent checklist process for closing a listing, including the seller in that process, is critical because we want them to repeat and refer. Now, that's a teaser for next week's call about closing processes, which is in and of itself a business. We actually have somebody at the company that is a closing coordinator that the company pays for just to be compliant, bare minimum. crossing T's, dotting I's, and not losing a deal. To that effect, I have a seller who we've gone through this with right now that I've had 6 offers, 6. And if you ask me, they were all acceptable, or I could have gotten them done in an acceptable range. It's a 2.25 under agreement at the moment, but I've had offers all the way from 2 to 2.3, all 6. And I probably could have negotiated them all to about this range. But the seller was really stuck on that. So sometimes your seller client just needs to be cared for a long period of time. Now, we don't get upset as long as we think they're moving in the right direction, even if they get emotionally attached to the property like these folks did because they live in Sweden and this property's been left behind, right, empty. So we let them have that process with us because we just kept telling them where we were. And we've gotten our extensions because he's an engineer and he just wants to make sure he's not being taken advantage of by me and my speed, the marketplace, whatever. And he finally came to realization. And I told him, Thomas, the market's backing up, inventory's going up. We need to sell this right now because we could wake up and find out that this is under $2 million. And he said, I agree with you. And so we have it under agreement. However, right now, getting into that detailed closing process, there are things there that I did this morning, today, to bring everybody's emotions down because I don't want him back as a client. I want him as a closing. I don't want him as a client. I want him as a closing. So right there, that bridges the gap, okay? Now, the buy side. Let's get into this, okay? So hang on one second while I change both of these. Let me bring this buy side up online. Okay. Now, the buy side becomes a really big deal here because of the fact that it is a hot topic since all the lawsuit. But as I predicted, there's hardly any conversation about it anymore. So everybody went into a major panic that the buy side was going to be screwed and it was going to be a mess. I'm not saying that in some MLSs, it's not more difficult. On Cape Cod, there's a challenge in our MLS because they are a National Association of Realtors affiliated MLS. And so now you can't, because of their rules, you can't put compensation on the buy side in MLS. So somebody has to ask me, are you offering compensation? To which I reply, of course I am, right? Of course I am. And here's how much we're offering. Thank you so much. So I want to make it easy on my fellow co-brokes for several reasons. One, 88% of the time, it's a co-broke to a co-broke sale in our business. 88% of the time. It's a small fraction of the time where you procure somebody directly yourself. So, of course, you want those people to know it. Now, in Boston, it's easy. All we had to do was check a new box. We had to check a box to say we were given the opportunity to offer compensation, not offer compensation. So we have to just check that box and put it in there. And you look like a dummy in Boston's MLS if you don't offer compensation, okay? Or you're doing a low-end house, or you got to, this is really where the business sucks. If you have a really, really hot low-end house and you know you can get away with offering 1% or squeezing somebody. One of my agents down here who's been with me a long time let herself get squeezed. I'm like, oh, please tell me it was a hot house and that's why you got squeezed, please. And she said yes, and plus there were difficult buyers. I said, okay, don't do that again without calling me, right? Because the buyer compensation thing has become a pretty big deal. And you just need to know your own value. So let's get into how you establish value with the buyer so you can protect this whole thing. Here we go again in the conversion module. I'm going to take you backwards to lead so you arrive at client care. I'm calling it buyer client care as a topic, but you notice I'm just reestablishing where care begins in the conversion when you just meet them to when you're nurturing that relationship as a prospect to where you're working with them. And the buy side becomes a little bit tricky because you may or may not be asking buyers to sign a formal contract. Yes, you have to get into all the, the dissertation about how much fee and all that nonsense. And again, it just aggravates me. So I let Laura do it where necessary, right? But the point being is that, yes, you should know that tactically how you do it. But how do you easily get a buyer to say yes to your fee before you even go out there? Well, here's how you do it. So the first question is, well, how do you introduce yourself professionally to buyers? I should underline that. a professional introduction to buyers. Not, hey, you want me to send you properties? Hey, I can send you properties. Hey, you buying? All of that is prospect pursued runaway stuff. Don't do that. Understand that what we're teaching you in this course is to productize buyer information as well, turn it into this information product and give it away so that what you begin to do is magnetize towards them towards you. So the best beginning is like the seller side. Give away your best what to do information for free. Now, of course, on the buy side, it's very similar stuff, but it changes slightly. One, in our world, we created a buyer plan. So not 7 steps, but we have 6 steps. And just so you're like, what is he talking about? Well, you need to talk to a buyer about representation and what that means and why it matters to them. You should talk to them as a representative, telling them you got to get your financing line. Even if you're paying cash, determine how much cash and get a letter from your bank that says you can complete a transaction in that range. You don't need a bank statement with blacked out lines and all that. You just need a letter from a banker who's willing to accept a call from somebody to substantiate you can complete that. See, that's all proper representation and guidance. And that's what we teach them. Now, once you determine how much you can afford with a mortgage plus your down payment or the cash you want to spend, match it up with the features of what kind of properties. Solds. Go back and look at what did the money at that price just buy this month, the month before, 90 days. See what that bought and ask yourself, would you have spent your money on those features and benefits? Now, go out and tour some of your favorites. So now that you have a sense of value of what's actually being sold and at what price, you can tour it with a more sane mindset about value. And we can take you out there as your representative and we can point things out about properties and why they're good and how they compare. So touring with us can end up being really insightful. And then when you find one that you like, we will do a dry run on an analysis. We're not just going to negotiate blindly. We know our math. We'll show you how we do a quick analysis the same way we would for the seller to make sure we're doing something, sane. But on the buy side, I could tell you that doesn't always play out. We thought we had some time in Beacon Hill of Boston. We made a $2 million offer. There were multiple offers. We went up to 2.2, not 2.25, and we found out that somebody else was bidding against themselves. We don't even know where they stopped. So sometimes an analysis doesn't matter. If you want the house, as long as the analysis says it's in the reasonable range, you're going to have to go there. See, all this stuff is discussed in this booklet. And you can set yourself up to see, this is a framework. I'm going to give it to you, whether you choose me or not, whether I'm worried about you signing a buyer-client contract and me making X%. Who cares? Here, take this first, right? Now, to get you ahead of the curve, I'm going to give you some neighborhood sales, the solds. So when I recommend you look at the features of what you want to spend, here they are. 1.8 to 2.2 million. This is the exact, case I was just talking about here. So you've got advice from me, what to do, and you've got the properties. And by the way, I'm not going to let Zillow make your life miserable. Here's printouts of 5 others that are actives. And yes, you're wondering how the market's doing. Look at that inventory number, 6.5 months. So even though that one was fat, don't worry, there's plenty of inventory, right? See, that's what giving away your best information looks like. Now, what are the benefits? Same thing. We're empowering the buyer and we're opening up a competitionless lane. Listen, I have picked up 2 buyers off of a $2 million property by giving away that buyer package at open houses. One is the one that just wrote the 2.2. We're waiting for good property to come on. The other one has a house to sell and invited me down there because I gave them advice. Don't sell that yet. Turn it into an investment property and take the 1031 tax exchange. How about that? A realtor saying, don't sell it. So what do? Say, we'd like you to come down and talk to us about how to rent it and then maybe find us something to buy now or rent while we go through this period. I'm like, yep, no problem. So I was in a $4.5 million house. So just like that, I'm in the other people looking up to about $7.5 million worth of potential simply because I gave away my best information for free. And because they were both open houses, I could even give some insight about the information. So I gave them all sorts of stuff to make them feel empowered to trust me, to go write up an offer for them and to go visit their home. Just like that. This just happened the last 2 weeks in a row, okay? So how do you set yourself up for a buyer acquisition process? Well, let's talk about it. Same way. you're chunking these steps up. Now, again, it's good to look at these infographics and understand the flow. Don't get caught up in all the details versus just the big chunked up steps, just like the sell side. So representation matters because a good rep tells you get your money in line and match it up with some solds. Then let's go out and see some of your favorites and I'll do an analysis and tell you what I thought of the pricing. And then understand, hey, do you have something to sell? Can you move easily? Do we need to deal with some hair on the closing process? Are you flexible? Boom. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's it. That's all you have to do is stay in that framework. And all of a sudden, everything you're saying sounds organized, strategic, and he said, professional. I'm not saying that your competition isn't professional. That's not what I'm saying. But people are listening. After a certain point in time, they don't care what brokerage you're at. They don't care if you sold 100 homes or a couple in the beginning of the process. It might be important to some people who just look for that. So you're not going to get them. But the person that's open to hearing a professional dissertation about how to simply sell a house or simply buy a house, they're going to lean in with you, okay? So the same thing with that buyer plan. Now, this is trickier than a listing because a listing's so easy. You got to sign client contract. You got them under control for real. By the way, even if you're signing a buyer client contract, they'll cheat on you if you don't do a good job. They'll break it because it's not as clear cut as a listing. It just happens. Take it from a guy who it's happened to, when I used to have them sign client contracts. I don't now. I don't want them to feel that way. I want them to want me. I want them to know that I'm the best choice for them. I want them to almost be afraid to not use me lest they make a mistake, right? So the onboarding process is establishing a transparent checklisted process for a buyer and including them in the process. So what does that look like on the buy side? Well, let's just say I get to Monday after meeting and prospecting somebody through this information. My offer next is to say, listen, I am going to call you Monday so I can get you some more details. See, because what I printed out is just a radius around this house in this price range. What other criteria do you want? And by the way, you're pretty busy. So if I know that when I'm in the field, I can let you know about things because you're probably sitting at home or at work when I'm not. This is what I do. So I don't mind previewing something and even taking a video. So we're checklisting with them. We're saying these things are going to happen next with us, right? And you begin to follow that same pattern with everybody and you see how they react. Are they appreciative of that? So all my best high-end buyers they're busy people, doctors, lawyers, business people, busy families. I mean, I have a lot of moms that have kids that are taking care of them all the time. When are they going to go? I mean, I have a brand new mother. She's now, gosh, I can't even believe the baby's over a year old. But she was working and pregnant, and he's like a high-powered attorney. So I just started going out being the buyer myself. I was the buyer. I said, Katie, stop. Just once we pick one of these, I'll go first and I'll say, get over here, right? And that's what we did. And that's how we checklisted this onboarding process. So let's get into that caring because I just went a little ahead of myself. It's crucial to maintain the authority over the process by telling the buyer what must happen to purchase the right property at the best price, including when it comes to negotiating the price and terms. And that's what the next level is of analysis. But it was in my whole thing. I'm telling you as an authority, look at solds. Educate yourself on what the money's buying. Don't just randomly go out there so we know what a good deal is. So that if you have to get in a bidding war, you might have to leapfrog everybody and go way above everybody to win, but you'll know why we did that because we did the math. Or let's go find some stuff. If you can't handle that process, let's go find some stuff that's longer in the tooth. It's beautiful stuff. It's just overpriced. Take a bite at the apple and we'll present our math and maybe we can get it done. So that's me telling them I'm an authority in the 6 steps and this is the best way to get the best house for you. That's it. And then all that caring stuff if you want to elevate, here's what I'd tell you about buyers, okay? I'll tell you right now. You are the buyer, not them. Write that down somewhere. I am the buyer, not them. You should flip the script. Here's why. The world of real estate agency on the buy side has become extremely reactive, especially if you're young, because you've grown up with a phone and everything is the phone. You're texting, your email. Nobody's talking. Nobody's going to the door and meeting somebody. Nobody's making an offer. So everybody's doing what? Being reactive. I'll lob this out and I'll react if something comes. Whereas old school people like me, hell no. I am on the sell side doing open houses 6 in a weekend, 3 on Saturdays, 3 on Sundays. The only reason I'll take this Sunday off because it's Father's Day and I feel a little bit like a wacko if I don't take that day off, right? So I'm taking it off. But there'll be 3 open houses on Saturday because that's proactively trying to make something happen for the seller. And in the same way, it's proactively trying to meet buyers to proactively put a package in their hand so that I can proactively go out and preview properties from them. So become the buyer yourself. Beat that buyer to the property. I told Annabelle that. Annabelle had a couple of good buyers. And I said, Annabelle, you got a $2 million buyer. Beat them to every $2 million house because that's really procuring cause. And if they're good people, they're not going to screw you. So don't just send it to them and let them go dark. Say, I sent this to you. I went by it. I actually called the agent. I got in. Looks pretty good for you because of this. Let me know your thoughts. Just beat them to it. Beat them. Outwork the buyer, not the other agent. Outwork the buyer to get them. Now, of course, at that level of care, I'm hoping you have prospected them correctly in the beginning. You have given the information package, the unique selling package. They've accepted it. And in return for that exchange, they told you they had a real why, and they have a 9 to 10 motivation sometime inside maximum the next 12 months, preferably the next 6 months. And lastly, how do you detail that closing process, right? Same way that you have to have a transparent checklisted process in the closing. But again, I'll deal with that next week because you don't just put them under agreement and do a half-assed job on closing, expecting them then to get into our final module as a client who's likely to repeat and refer, a past client, right? Okie dokie. So, by the way, pro tip on that side, start your buying process by educating the buyer rather than trying to take the business. Taking the business sounds like, oh, I can set you up an MLS and I can say that's taking. That's taking. And anybody can do that and everybody does. And that's why people get blown off. Okay. All right. Let me see. I had a question. Isabel said, sorry, I'm late. No sweat, Isabel. You're here. That's all I care about. Okay. I'm going to stop sharing now. And hopefully, let me just see this. Okay. Let's go to a Q&A here. It's hot here tonight and I'm sweating up in here because I didn't turn the AC on. So, questions, thoughts, and you can ask me anything when we get to this point in the night where, it's really more about you right now and not leaving
Recording
you confused.
stopped.
Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Hang on one second. There we go.
Recording in progress.
Okay. So, Wendy, welcome. Good to have you here. So, I don't know when you came in, but I did try to backtrack a little bit for people like you that might be seeing this like 10 weeks in. So when you get with me, those are the buyer and seller packages that we're gonna talk about when you see me. And the training live on the 21st is going to be heavily about these things too. So just so you know, that was the reference to those things. All right. Any Griffin agents? Doma, Wendy, Sham, Andre, Danielle, Ben, Isabel, Nigel.
Can I hop
Deirdre?
on a call with you after the meeting?
Yes, if it's quick.
Very quick.
Yep.
Just a quick question.
No sweat on the way home. Yes. Because I want to hear what happened with you. Yep. Good. The answer is yes. So when you see me turn this off, oh, shoot, you know what? You got to wait till I get home. Phone's at home. Okay. So you got to give me like 15 minutes. Just send me a text. And when I get there, I'll call you. Okay.
Okay. I could say it like in 30 seconds really quick too, if you want. It's just something so random.
Do it now.
But the gentleman I'm meeting tomorrow at his house,
Yeah.
he's so done with the sell process altogether. He's been like door knocked by so many realtors and everything just done. And on top of it, he found out today only his property was placed on a flood zone. And he's lived there 36 years, never had any issues, and didn't even get notice that it was in a flood zone. I basically just told him, if there was anything on my resources that I could do to give him any type of information, I'm going to print out the fact that there's never been flooding for, I think it goes.
No, don't do that. No, don't do that. That doesn't matter. The FEMA map, and FEMA doesn't care to notify anybody about anything. So don't ever think there's going to be any
That's why I was surprised.
Yeah,
I thought they would.
No, they don't. That's not the way the government works, my dear, right? They don't care about us. So the bottom line, Andre's laughing, right? I won't be in any protests, though, I promise you. So the point being is that they don't care. That's a map, and they do it, and then the insurance companies use that. So what do? So you think for a second. You need to get a quote for that house for insurance. So you text me and say, please send me Cora's information. Okay, Cora from Oceanside, who's our insurance agent. You could tell her you're one of our agents. You'll call her tomorrow and say, Cora, could you educate me on what you think a property like this would require? What's the price for insurance? So you'll be the only one that got him a real answer as to what
That's what he wants. He said if there was like anything I could do at all about it, he told me he would be ecstatic because he's so over people talking to him. He told me on the phone, he was like, I'm not even looking forward to the meeting, but you seem okay, so you can come. And I was like, thanks.
Okay, so get him the answer before you go. Don't walk in empty-handed. He wants something.
I put it down, so I'm going to give her a call tomorrow.
Yeah, just say, I called Cora, our insurance agent. I told her your address. She looked you up on the FEMA map, and here's the quote on what it would be, plus or minus. So going into listing with me, wink, wink, I already know what the answer is. So there'll be no surprise. But you can't worry about that. You have to come into the 7 steps. Let's go through this. I don't care who knocked on your door. I'm not even asking for the listing. I'm asking to go through these 7 steps with you and the analysis and the net sheet, right? Let's just go through the education. I'm not asking. You can even say to him, I'm not asking for your listing. I'm asking for your attention, right?
That's what he needed. He even told me afterwards. He actually asked, he was like, oh, what's your name again and what company you're working for? He was like, it was actually really nice talking to you because I told him the package information. We actually went off script. We had a nice conversation where he was telling me about his kids, his back injury, all kinds of stuff. So I was like trying to use that to my initiative of being like,
but always bring him, let him go. Let as I say, let the kite string go out, because what he's doing in those moments of telling you his personal stuff, he's co-creating the relationship and he's intimating with you. And when he intimates with you, there is a rapport. But our system is not predicating the rapport. It's just the gravy, right? You bring them back. You make a couple of quick things. I hear you, right? I get it.
Yep.
But you don't go off on your story because now there's 2 kites all the way out in the string. And now I got to reel you back in to get you back organized. So you hang on to the 7 steps, right? For dear life and say, okay, I got you what you wanted, a quote on the insurance, okay? But let's go through the 7 steps. And when I'm done, I'm going to show you the analysis. And we're going to talk about what you walk away with. And then we're going to remind you, why are you doing this and how motivated you are? Because if you hire us, this is the way we do it, right? This is the way we do it. We try to make the market for it following the 7-step plan. You just got to keep drilling that into him to make him see you as a professional with a structure. But you go in, you ask for the tour. He's going to chat it up. Don't talk too much. Make note of what kind of condition the house is in. Does it need some love or not? Don't say anything negative, but make mental note of what's negative. So that when you are giving advice about conditioning, saying, are you willing to do any reconditioning or not? Because when I do the analysis after these 3 things, right? So your price is based in math, which I brought with me tonight, and we'll go over that afterwards. But if you want to improve price, there are some things you could do to recondition the property and stage it. Now, you, Danielle, already told me, is it okay to move people's stuff around? You could even tell them, I have a little bit of a passion for fixing people's houses up myself. So you wouldn't have to pay a stager because I could show you what to do and what not to do to make this present correctly. Then and only then can we market it. And marketing starts with us doing the conditioning and staging, then digitizing all of that in one moment, doing a write-up about the benefits of the house, not just a reiteration of features. And then we throw that out through what's called syndication into the MLS and then into the internet. But then I push. I make phone calls. See, I met you because I door knocked you. How did you meet him? Call him or door knock him?
I called him.
Double down. I will now call everybody around you. Tell them it's just listed. Send them a listing sheet. I will also send a postcard that will say just listed. That comes back to our website. They see all the pretty pictures. But most importantly, you got to let me in here as many weekends as you can, because that pushes you out there, and that's the only way to get real feedback. So you have to stay inside that 7 steps, and do not let yourself, if you feel, remember this analogy, if you feel the kite string going out too far, reel yourself back in and remember where you're at. So when you have that 7-step infographic on the table across from him, not the booklet, the infographic, okay, that keeps you disciplined. Yeah, got it?
Got it.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Send me that text though, so I don't forget.
I will.
And put in there what you need from me. All right, what else? Thoughts, questions tonight?
Hey, it's Jackie.
Jackie.
Hey, so I have a couple.
Shoot.
I'm looking at some really high-end open house opportunities. They're not mine, obviously. But we're in wine country, and so the median in the 2 different areas, kind of average between the 2, is about 532,000. Just averaging between the 2 areas. So I'm looking at some of these like 3.2 million and 2.6, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm wondering specifically, I go in with my little fold-up table and my little camp chair, and a lot of these places that I usually do open houses are vacant, and I'm kind of looking for vacant so that they're open whenever. But I feel like for higher end, I need to change that up. What are your thoughts?
Change. Whoa. I missed change what up?
Like going in with a camp chair to sit in and a little plastic table, and do I need to be a little more formal, or
No,
just
that's a misperception about who's coming through the door.
okay?
You're acting like like is the King of England coming and it's all formal? Yeah.
Well, because
No, really,
most
I'm
of our
taking.
stuff is
Look
not
at
that
you. You
high.
know me. I nope. Stop saying that. Go back to week number 3 or 4, and stop saying that.
Mindset.
Stop
Okay.
saying that. I've never been in these before. Why? You never talked to a human being before? Like human beings are going to walk through, not AI. So like it's all up in your head. I mean,
Okay.
I sit on the stairs. There was no furniture in one of these houses. I was sitting on the stairs until somebody came in and stood up, right? I mean,
Okay.
you need a
Okay.
table to put the information on. Say sellers asked that everybody sign in. It's obviously an empty house. Yeah. Yeah. Don't
All
over.
right, and then
Yeah. Don't overthink that.
so when I'm door knocking to Circle Prospect before the open house around any of these, so I'm assuming I'm taking the listing sheet with me. That's what I'm offering them.
Okay, don't
And then the
assume.
circle-
Don't assume. There's a script. Circle
Okay.
prospecting, open house. Just adapt.
So that's what I
Adapt it.
looked at.
So just adapt.
Okay.
Yeah, adapt it for door knock.
Okay, so that's what I kind of did. So it says, may I send you a listing sheet? So instead, I'm going
May I
to take
give
a
you-
listing sheet.
May I give you this listing sheet?
May I give you this? So I hand it to him. And then let me go down a little ways. It says, this is such a dumb question, but I'm going to ask it because I'm so big on wording, and I know that words are important, and you're good at
They're
putting the
everything.
right words in there. So
Words are everything.
it gets down there and it says to ask if they happen to own a home in the neighborhood, and that's over the phone. So I'm looking at them face to face. What's more appropriate to say? Like, are you the homeowner? Is that the appropriate
Well,
thing?
read the
or-
script. Read the script out loud because you're dialoguing. Read the script. Go
Okay,
ahead.
so it says, I have it pulled up on another screen. Okay, it says, so by the way, I'm just kind of going back up a little bit, but do you know of anyone looking to buy in the area? If yes, I'd like to send them a listing sheet as well. What's the best way to get them? By the way, while I have you, are any of your neighbors considering selling? Because I'd like to send them a package of information to help them get top dollar. If yes, okay, what's their name and address?
Yep.
And then the next question is, do you own a home in the neighborhood?
How about you? Do you
And-
own this home?
Okay. And then the next part says,
I don't
how
think it
about you?
says.
Are you
I don't
thinking
think.
about
I don't think.
selling?
I don't think it says. Does it say? Do you own a home in this neighborhood?
And do you own a home in the neighborhood? It's number 6.
Okay,
I'm
I gotta look
looking
at that.
it from the training.
Hit me tomorrow on Thursday. Let me tighten that one up for you going into the weekend. So if you come on the Thursday
Okay.
call tomorrow, let me tighten that one up. I don't like that. I don't like what's written there. Okay.
Perfect. Yep. And that's the end of the questions. I appreciate it.
The end of the questions. I don't even. You didn't even
For
go
this
long.
moment.
You didn't even go long enough for me to send a bill. For crying out loud.
You know that I I reached out and asked my principal, and the response was, "What are you trying to do door knocking? You should be making videos."
Yikes.
Thank you, Danny.
He should be making videos. Tell him I said. Making videos of himself talking to himself. All right. Next. Good.
Thank you.
Anybody else have a question?
Yeah, I've got a question for you, Danny.
My man, nobody has a better headshot than you. Look at that blue tie. That shiny blue tie, man. You look good. Go ahead, brother.
All right. So earlier today, I was making calls.
Yep.
Through a canceled list.
Yes.
Went through beat one.
Yep.
Made the offer, set the phone appointment, and then was able to get a little bit into beat two about his motivation.
Good.
And the, I guess, 1 to 10 scale. So
yep,
he was
good.
really highly motivated.
Yep, good.
This was a condo just under the median price.
Good.
And so he was listed about, I'd say, I mean, I just finished up the technical analysis and,
yep.
Looking at some similar sold properties.
Yep.
He was probably about 140,000 over what it actually sell for.
Okay, hold on. Hold on. The analysis took you, your top one on the analysis, the top ratio took you 140 light. He was
yes.
Okay, you're 100, your top on you got your middle, high, and low. Your top
yep.
is 140 low.
Yeah, so
wow.
it would have been from the top about 120. Yeah, so still up
okay.
there.
Okay, so 120 low. So what do you do? Is that the question for me?
Yeah, so because his motivation was to walk away with some money from this to get a down payment towards his next property.
When did he buy it, Sham?
In 2022. So
you see, he's in a tough spot. Yep. See, all these guys, they're delusional, right? Did he put any money down? Do you know what his mortgage is?
I do not know anything about the mortgage or.
Okay, let's go. Hold on. Let me do you justice. Let me take you back to the script. So, because the script has 3 beats, right? So you get to the final beat is, because you're so highly motivated, I'll be happy to bring the information with me. And while I'm there, I'll give you tips on what to do and what not to do. But I'll also analyze what's sold around you and show you what you'd walk away with after all expenses. Did you get that far?
Yeah. And then he was kind of giving some pushback of like, you can send in the mail and then we'll.
Okay, good. Stop. Okay, good. Stop. So now you tried the upsell of those 2 things, but you're back down to the 3 pieces. So there is no analysis yet. Okay.
Okay.
There's none yet. Did you mail him the cover letter? And you'll have to adapt it for, I think it just says expired. Make sure you just change it to canceled, right? And there's 2 places in there as to say canceled. So that cover letter, and then of course the 3 pieces. So you're not doing any analysis for this guy. Don't send him any analysis. Nothing. All you do is take condos a little above his and a little below his that's sold, hopefully close to him, maybe even in the association, but you're giving him data only. There's no analysis yet. Because if you mail somebody something and that analysis is light, you're dead, right? You're dead. If you get in front of him and you're like, listen, I couldn't make the math work to get to the number that you expired at. But what I did do is, what did he want for it? How much did he want for the place?
It was about, I think, 520.
Okay, so I took a fresh look at what sold from 575 down to 475, okay? Because you were in there. Here are the things that sold. And what I looked at was, you got some tough competition at 520 to 575, and even at 520 to 500, you get some tough competition. They have 2.5, bathrooms. You have 2. You see what I'm saying? You start to make, if the analysis, the relative analysis doesn't work out, you make the pound for pound. Would you have bought this condo or your condo? You see what I mean? But never send him an analysis. That's the key to getting you in. Listen, I sent you some stuff. Now you got to send him the stuff. Be careful when you send it. Condo's a little above where he expired and a little bit more below where he is. Because you got a tough thing. You think he's 120 over. Now, I don't know if it's a kick in the teeth to show him what sold at 400, right? That's a pretty big kick in the teeth, right?
Yeah.
So maybe I wouldn't send that without, I'd maybe go to 450 to anchor them. I'd be 450 to 550. Get up to 6 or so that's sold, up to 550 down to 450. Don't go as low as you might need to if you get in there, but get that package to him. You could even drop it off and stuff it in his mailbox and call him and say, hey, it's in your mailbox, right?
Yeah.
But always only information, right? Only information. And I think I heard about Danielle. I don't know whether you were supposed to meet him and didn't meet him. Same thing to you. Don't ever give away the analysis in the net sheet, ever.
Yeah.
Unless guys, it's a Zoom and they live out of town and you send it about 30 minutes before you give it to them. You never want somebody to analyze the stuff themselves because they will make a mistake and they might call you nuts for sending it. You know what I mean? Never analysis without you guys in the house, preferably. Okay.
I needed that.
Yeah. It's okay. Well, it's a system. You don't know it. Well, you don't know it exactly. Yeah. Well, that's why you come here. Good for you for being here. Because it's not obvious until it's obvious. 1, 2, 3 pieces of information get mailed to anybody who accepts it and has a why and a motivation, but only the analysis in the net sheet and your tips if you get invited in the house. Okay. Only. You got to hold something back to get in the house. That's the exchange, right? Let me in. Now that you've seen my stuff, you saw that I took the time to actually make you a real package. Nobody did that, and you know it. You know nobody did that. I did that for you. Let me in the damn house, right? Because there's more. It's like, hey, behind door number 5 and 6, there's more, right?
Yep.
There's more. I will give you free information on what to do and what not to do. I will even analyze this, and nobody does an analysis. Nobody does a net sheet. If you do, tell them to come into our group, right? That's how unique they are.
Thank you.
Yep.
Because I was giving away door 5 and 6.
Well, and the problem is you now can't get in to give your interpretation because he gave it away. Now they can't see you. You see what I mean about the law of authority? You gave away your authority, right? Don't do that.
Yeah.
Keep in that position. That's what I'm saying about Jackie. Even in her mind, hasn't even happened. She's given away her authority. Well, I have never been in a $3.6 million. So what? Who cares? You're the real estate authority. You're here tonight. Your learning process, not them. Doesn't matter whether they have a PhD or an MBA or, a lot of Ben Franklin's in the closet. I don't care. You're the expert. Don't give away your power and your authority, right?
Perfect.
Cool.
Thank you.
Good. Bravo. Excellent question. Yeah, I know. Isabel. Amen, sister. Up in the back row. Can the preacher hear the choir singing? That's it. All right. That's enough for me. It's hot and it's 8:07. So you guys and gals will go take a break. I appreciate the live attendance, though. It's always beneficial to be here live. So thanks for the effort.
Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Danny.
Yeah. It just changes the
Thank
way
you,
you see
Danny.
it. You're welcome. Bye, gang. Have a good night.
Bye.
Have a good night.
Thanks. You too.